Good afternoon, everyone. I am Solis and
I am Chandru Taytay.
the host of this event titled Hospitality Resilience in the Midst of Pandemic. I'd like to introduce today's speakers, Mr. Daniel Sañado and Miss Analyn Villanueva.
Thank you, Mr. Von and Mr. Ryan. Before we start, let's go back to how it all began. Last December 2019 in Wuhan, China, dozens of citizens got infected with what seems like pneumonia outbreak that came from an unknown source. It was said that this plague was caused by the novel coronavirus, a big family of different viruses that often transmitted from a person to another person, either through droplets of saliva, when coughing or sneezing, or from direct contact with the infected.
So how does the pandemic affected the hotel industry? Due to the COVID-19, the hotel industry has been unstable since there has been a massive drop in the number of guests that book and avail hotel services. A lot of reservations were cancelled because restrictions such as total lockdown and no mass gathering were set by the authorities forcing people to stay at home, leading to a sharp decline on both supply chain and revenues. Being said that, some owners came up with the decision of temporarily or shut their hotel permanently due to the insufficient funds, since there's a low to zero regenerated income, which resulted to employees losing their jobs. This also forced many hotels to run with use of skeletal staff, utilizing the small number of people in order to adapt to the deflating economy while still maintaining the basic function of the establishment. So, what are the DOT requirements to operate?
First and foremost, accommodation establishments are required to secure a valid DOT or certificate of authority to operate, which can be acquired if and only if the hotel complied with DOT health and safety guidelines for accommodation under the new normal that was issued by World Health Organization, Department of Health, and areas placed under a community quarantine. Second, hotel must have good ventilation and other air system. Third, shield divider must be placed on reception area and concierge. There should be proper sanitation stations, disinfection measures, thermal scanner at the entrances which will be conducted by qualified medical staff or trained hotel personnel, and the staff must have RT-PCR tests.
There's also a need for the hotels to develop staycation packages where they are obligated to have a guest handling policy. These prerequisites include having a complete health declaration form upon check-in and body temperature screening. There are other precautionary measures that need to be followed, like physical distancing, hand washing, wearing of face masks of both guests and employees must be strictly observed. Use of disposable gloves when handling documents or paying. However, as much as possible, online payment must be the main mode of payment, and etc.
And because of the strict policy, the challenges in hotels operation becomes inevitable. For frontline office, although hospitality and welcoming feeling can still be felt, there has been a huge difference when it comes to accommodating guests. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, employees weren't able to greet the guests with the warm smiles and interact with them since there is a limited time to socialize. The pandemic clearly changes the operation of the whole hotel industry. So the safety of all the guests becomes the top priority of the staff, so they have been more careful in terms of having close physical distance with the guest. No direct personal service unless needed or requested, and most guests, if not all, avoid the receptions by booking an online check-in and check-out.
For the food and beverage, hotels tighten their preparation and catering options since they will not be allowed to operate at full capacity. As a result, some hotels had introduced digital menus, contactless payments, self-service buffets were removed and was replaced with either pre-packed meals or grab-and-go meals. And they had repurposed the dining operation of their premises, adapting to takeout services while still trying to deliver the same dining experience.
For the housekeeping, it is one of the main priorities of the hotel. It is where the guests would take their time to rest. For making sure that the guests would be safe, housekeepers should also maintain the cleanliness inside the hotel room. We all knew that before the COVID-19, housekeeping should be maintained clean and well sanitized. But as we face this pandemic, we should double our prevention for the safety of the guests. We need to put much effort for keeping it clean and well sanitized. For doing this, we can do the time to time change the cover of the bedsheets, put some alcohol that the guests can use, put some printouts, rules and regulations to maintain the sanitation. We can also inform our guests on how to maintain their safety inside the hotel room. The prevention must start with the staffs and guests so that we can make sure that the pandemic will never harm our guests and our hotel's image.
The current situation of hotel industry was far from being fully recovered since this industry was having a hard time coping up with their loss for the past year. The pandemic has brought unpredictable challenges in the hotel industry. Many policies and protocol has been set to be strictly followed, and due to the protocols, few of the accommodation establishment wasn't able to fight bankruptcy and had to shut down since there's lack of occupancies because local and international tourists weren't allowed to travel. People need to be home quarantined or for the reason that there's a need to have health documents and permit to operate.
The situation right now is much better than before due to the fact that the hotel industry is slowly recovering and adjusting to the new normal. Also, the tourists now are allowed to travel in and out of the country. Since the restrictions are become light that almost 50% are going back to normal. And although there are still some protocols and rules to follow for our safety, but overall it guaranteed that hotel industry as of the moment is slowly but surely adapting to the new normal.
To enlighten us more about the current update in the hotel industry, let us welcome our guest speaker, Ms. Jeneline T. Tolentino, an alumna of DLSUD Batch 2015, Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Restaurant Management, that now works as the front office supervisor of the Bayleaf Hotel, Cavite.
Hi, good day to everyone. I am Jeneline Tolentino, the front office supervisor of the Bayleaf Hotel, Cavite. I am here with you guys to share the current updates of the hotel industry. Nowadays, there are different classifications of hotels. There are other hotels being used for stringent and mandatory quarantine. The difference between them is that stringent hotels are being used as facility if the guests are showing COVID-19 symptoms, while other hotels are used for mandatory quarantine for OFW and guests who just arrived here in the Philippines and they have to wait for their negative result for about 10 to 14 days. While staycation hotels may accept leisure or corporate guests. For now, there are hotels who can accommodate all ages provided that 18 years old and below and above 65 shall undergo swab testing as mandated by Department of Tourism. The hotel must have CAOS or Certificate of Authority to operate for staycation. Other hotels offer on-site swab testing, but in case the hotel does not provide on-site swab testing, guests may visit any clinic and present the negative result upon check-in. Just like the other establishments, safety seal certificate is given to hotels if they comply with the health standards set by the government. Last March 2020, the first lockdown was announced here in the Philippines, and I can say that the hotels were affected because they cannot accommodate guests or leisure stay because of the community quarantine. But now, because of the certificates given by Department of Tourism, I can say that the hotel industry is now back in business. Guests are now starting to book their reservation because they wanted to relax and unwind despite of the current situation. Again, thank you for inviting me to share with you the current updates in the hotel industry. Thank you!
Thank you, Ms. Jeneline T. Tolentino, for sharing your knowledge about what's going on in the hotel industry at the moment. Now, that leaves us to the question of what can we do to prevent the second wave. Any thoughts, Chandru?
Of course, partner. People should continue following all health protocols such as staying at home as much as possible, practice frequent and proper hand washing with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, using of alcohol-based hand sanitizers, wearing of mask and maintaining physical distancing when leaving the house, always clean and disinfect, avoid joining crowds in poor ventilated places, and lastly, getting vaccinated as soon as possible.
At this point, we will proceed to the awarding of certificate for our guest speaker. As a token of appreciation for your valuable contribution, we grant you, Ms. Janeline T. Tolentino, a certification of participation. Thank you very much. And we have finally come to an end of our session. It has been a wonderful experience knowing more information about the hotel industry. So I would like to thank all the people who participated in today's webinar. I hope you all have gathered knowledge and awareness. Stay safe.